Legion by Lenovo.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another week of the Chisholm Invitational. My name is Max. Joining me is Caleb as we get ready to bring you another exciting match between some of the best schools, and when it comes to playing League of Legends, of course, that the state of Queensland has to offer. We're going to be seeing a repeat of a familiar team today taking on a rival school that has been equaling them when it comes to standings thus far. And Hedgie, how are you feeling about this matchup today?
Yeah, really big match. Probably the biggest match of the week if you're just looking at the whole circuit overall. So really important. Got some really good players as well on each individual team. So I'm going to be really excited to watch this one. Obviously, good teams and just good big implications, on Group D as well. So a big match ahead of us.
Yeah, absolutely, because this match will be played. It is a Group D matchup between the Cyber Sharks and ICU. But before we get too into this upcoming matchup, I want to take another look at the rest of the pools and the standings to sort of paint that picture as to where everyone is looking at. Starting on sort of that top half, Pool A and Pool B, you can see that the Maroons are currently the only undefeated team in Pool A, while in Pool B, the Lakers, Legends, and the Echidnas are still going at it, each currently 3-0. A win this week could put either of those two teams straight into that playoffs in one of those top two finishing positions. Meanwhile, over on the back end in Pools C and Pools D, Pool D, of course, being that one we're going to cover. It's battle up at the top right now between the Cyber Sharks and ICU at BBC. We're going to be watching them go at it. TC Red hoping that they can pick up the scraps just behind. But in Pool C, it is a very tight race. Arguably every team still in the hunt there, with STC Gold remaining atop at their own 3-0 record. But now we got to look a little bit closer at the two teams playing today, starting, of course, with what's going to be on our blue side, ICU at BBC. This team consists of Red Blood Cells in the top lane, Shadow J in mid, and Anobito in bot lane, Ember Celia in jungle, and Cyrus 208 in support.
Yes, obviously, and you're looking at both of these teams as well, particularly looking at ICU right now. Looking across the board, all their KDAs are good, so they're all looking good as a team. So obviously just a bit more formidable. This is a 3-0 team, right? This is a team that's going to potentially win the circuit or go close with how they've gone so far. But yeah, all looking very, very good across the board. Have to man to the jungler because I'm a jungler. 7.3 kills, pretty good, much more than me. So doing a very good job there. But yeah, definitely good across the board.
Absolutely. The player, though, that I'm probably going to be focusing on the most when it comes to this team is actually going to be the mid laner. I know normally I'm with you. It's the jungles and the sports. That's where I like to follow. But Shadow J in the mid laner has the best KDA on the team statistically coming into this one as well, is equaling in average kills alongside with that bot side. So it tells me that this is probably going to be a very aggressive mid laner. Probably will be looking for those solo plays, especially in a league like this. Might be looking to create a bit of that lane kingdom. And if you want to throw back to that jungler, I'm really curious to see how Ember Celia is going to be able to synergize with this mid laner. However, we do need to look at their opponents. It's a team we've seen before, the TSS Cyber Sharks, as they're going to be coming up right now. I believe in the top lane you have Goon Goblin, mid lane Chuch Otter, on the bot side Cat LC, in the jungle K, and of course on support Sir Fisher.
Yeah, obviously looking very good in terms of the KDAs as well. And I mean, we talk about this a lot, and obviously each team, the best player being on the other team mid lane, best player on this team being KKKK in the jungle, obviously has those 12 kills there, but doing very good job. And if you wanted to have your best player in any position, for me, preferably, Lord, it would preferably be the jungle or the mid lane position. So obviously each team having that here. So can they take advantage of that strong role where they can do a lot in the game? Obviously the jungle able to gank, able to get these lanes ahead, able to get that snowball rolling in the mid lane. You can create these big advantages and really be really strong as your individual champion as well, or roam around the map yourself and pick up a tee off or something and go top, go bot, do a lot of stuff. So definitely two positions where you can look to carry and can look to do a lot in those positions.
Absolutely, and kind of following, I think, these players' movements is going to be very, very vital in this matchup, not to mention that jungle mid synergy. If there's going to be any chance for sort of Shadow J and Kek to go at each other early and throughout the mid stages of this game, it's going to be with their counterpart as well. I'm going to be really excited to see if the TSS Cyber Sharks in particular look to prioritize possibly trying to keep Shadow J down, or if they look elsewhere to gain some advantages. That's probably going to be determined more when we get into the game itself. Obviously, all of this is speculation. It all comes down to those picks and bans, which I think it's going to be heading over in just a few moments. I'm willing to give the A-OK from our end, and it looks like the players are getting that A-OK to start as well. So knowing sort of these teams, one team might like the mid lane, the other team might like the jungle. What sort of picks and bans are we going to be expecting to see here, Hedgie?
You know what, Paul? Gonna throw it to the jungle. I'm looking for a first pick Viego or an early Viego. Maybe they're gonna get it on red side for some reason, you know? But that could be a pick that we look to in the mid lane. You're typically looking to actually pick that last instead, so give you the best possible advantage. Because typically with mid lane and top lane, if you actually prior pick something, typically it's not as good. You want to actually look, see the whole draft and then go like, okay, I reckon Orianna's really disgusting here in multiple facets, or TF's really disgusting in multiple facets. So looking at a champion that can more, you know, actually carry the overall game and seeing more of the competition. But in jungle, it's a bit different. You actually can give yourselves a prior pick. Now you can go for a counter pick as well. Like I think Fiddlesticks would be a champion, for example. He'd be completely disgusting if you pick him a bit later in the draft. So I can see what they do go for that. But yeah, I expect probably maybe a jungler or something first pick instead.
Viego's still up.
Yeah, Viego is up. Oh no!
Viego was able to get through, and that could be a little bit concerning if it's not in Ember Celia's play pool. We'll see, though, with this first lock-in. I feel like that's the direction you have to go, but instead it's going to be priority to the bot side. Samira has been a very popular pick. Aatrox going to go for a Goon Goblin, and it looks like KK is not going to be the priority on the TSS side. I'm a little bit surprised by that. Instead, they go for an early Misfortune pickup.
Yeah, I mean, so you can actually still probably try to get a counter pick in from him as well. And Viego has been a very, very good champion, but I think there are junglers that can potentially, dare I say it, counter him or beat him in ways if you actually do it to pick that one up. But they're going to go off the Dragon Man, the Dragon Girl. That is just completely off there. Dragon coming at Shyvana in that jungle position are going to be picked up, and the Zed as well. Some really aggressive picks, Samira, Shyvana, and Zed. All a bit different in what they actually want to do, but yeah, very, very, you know, strong with these picks.
Yeah, I already feel like TSS is kind of building a much more, I would want to say, stock standard, a more meta team composition on that red side for them. When we're looking at this blue side, it is very much going to be a little bit of a fight within the team to be the carry in this situation. I mean, Samira and a Zed, that is a lot of damage just between those two. And with Shyvana being that aggressive jungler that she can be, I do imagine we're going to be seeing a situation where ICU is going to be on the hunt for a lot of early and mid-game kills.
Yeah, and I mean, the problem with if these champions get ahead is just the raw amount of damage they do. I mean, versing a lot of Shyvana's in solo queue and just seeing her, in some aspects, she does a massive ton of damage when she gets ahead, and when she does get rolling, is able to farm really, really easily. Zed and Samira then as well, able to do a lot of burst, able to do a lot of big damage when they do get ahead. So looking already at these three champions, just the raw damage they do is pretty scary. But then on the other side, we've got the Aatrox, got the Misfortune, we've got the Bron, bit more front to back, bit more concisive, bit more of a team fight look with what they've picked up so far.
So, something I'm noticing, and I think it's becoming more and more apparent, I'm very curious to see what this last ban is actually, because this might confirm my belief as it does. There goes the Viego, but more importantly, 5 jungle bans thrown at KK. If that is not showing, you know, respect towards your opponent's champion pool and the impact they might have on their game, I am not sure what is.
Yeah, and I've kind of been a bit bamboozled here, because I said they should probably save their mid pick for last and then pick the jungler early if you're KK, but they've gone the complete opposite, so they pick the mid early and then the jungle's a bit later here coming in that 4th pick, so I picked the Olaf as well. So again, a bit more front to back, a lot of early pressure though they do have that, but yeah, he's got the Vikings, so that'll be interesting to see what he can do with that one. But a lot of assassins, a lot of damage, raw damage coming through from ICU. Looking to pick up that Akali, they do Zed and Akali, no, that's Shen. Okay, I was about to say the apprentice and the master, but completely off on that one as well. So great start to the day here for me.
Yeah, you gotta brush up on lore. Get some more Legends of Runeterra in ya. That's a great way to actually learn a lot about the lore of this game. I do want to come back to the Olaf pick in a bit. I think that's going to be a very important one, and I'm very interested on your input on that as we finally see a lock-in that's, you know, not pure damage, except for the fact that you consider, wait a minute, that's still a Swain support, and that's still going to be out DPSing most supports out there on the Rift right now. I rarely see teams as aggressive as what I'm seeing from ICU, and the response right now is going to be a bit of that Vladimir hover and lock-in. I like the Vladimir pick in most situations. I'm not sure how well it actually synergizes with the rest of the team, but I do think it is an appropriate pick against the team that, you know, they're up against. And Vlad into Zed is a very strong matchup, especially if things go late for the Vladimir.
Yeah, well, my problem for ICU's comp is, although they have a lot of damage and a lot of burst potential, if they get ahead, they're going to be very scary. But they don't really have any CC. They've got one ability that's CC. They don't really have a split push threat. I mean, you could argue Zed, but I don't really think you want him in the side lane. I think you want him to try to be killing or like grouping up. But then they don't really have the group. So very, very dependent on getting their lanes ahead, very dependent on getting big advantages. And if they do, mind you, they will shred the enemy team. They have a lot of damage. But yeah, definitely have to play in a very unique and hard to play style, in my opinion, to go through. But yeah, this Olaf pick formal. Now, obviously being a part of Summoner Society, if anyone here did watch Summoner Society on Monday, you know we love the Olaf pick, and everyone was just really baffled when I didn't pick it first.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. I mean, the expectation as a coach was that you would rate this Olaf pick quite highly, and which is why I want your like actual full opinion on this pickup, because even in the situation of this game, it still is relevant. KKKKK 5 jungle bans, which I think is the first time I have ever seen 5 bans dedicated for one player. And that goes at casting League of Legends at all level. And so Olaf turns into the jungle that he falls back on. And now I'm asking you, what is it about Olaf that makes him the right pick in this situation?
Okay, so I think what I'd say is that they do have a very good front to back composition, or at least a decent one at that. And then they have good scaling. So if you pick an early game aggressive champion like Olaf that isn't actually really good at scaling, and it kind of gets memed on a bit when he does hit that late game stage, or he hits mid game and he's not ahead and he just gets one shot. If you actually pick him here, where they have a lot of that late game presence, you don't really need to go for another late game pick, because then he can kind of just get stomped in all 3 lanes, right? So picking Olaf, you give yourself a bit of presence, very good with that Aatrox, and they're not too bad early if you actually look at like MF Brom's pretty good early, Aatrox is pretty good early, Vlad just scaling pick that's not really going to do anything, but he can get that early pressure, has good gank set up in top lane, can solo Drakes and try to put pressure on Shyvana, and Shyvana is very reliant on objectives, and Olaf's one of the best champions at clearing those off the map, at 1v1ing, forcing pressure, getting vision, getting into the enemy jungle. So it is a pick that can really deny the enemy's ability early, and that can then allow your Vladimir and allow your MF to scale up, get to the late game, and get to those front to back team fighting comps. So I actually don't mind the pick here. The only problem for me is that you've picked it with like into no CC, so the ultimate's just not really going to be something that is impacted highly compared to other games. But other than that, I think it's a pretty solid pick if you're just looking at it objectively here.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the case, though, across the board for a lot of these picks. It feels like a lot of solid picks that might not necessarily synergize with the rest of the team. I would argue that TSS probably has a bit more of that team synergy coming into this than perhaps ICU does. But at that same token, it's not as if the ICU team doesn't have an identity. It's just a very unconventional, very high risk, high reward one.
Yeah.
And if they do get that reward, they're going to not only secure themselves a spot, I would imagine, top 2 in Group D, but also be that last remaining undefeated team. So why not go all in right here, right now? Because you're on stream. It's your chance to prove yourself against a team that's already been established as one of the best in this tournament. This matchup is going to be a doozy. That is for sure. I mean, you can't look at these team comps and not see those fireworks. So we're going to throw it to a quick break as we get ready to go set on the Rift. Stay with us on to the game when we return. back, everybody, straight to the Rift and possibly straight to the action as TSS are moving as a group of 5 right to a bush where Anobito was waiting for them. Spots out that approaching sea of red as all of TSS are continuing to just kind of go on a little bit of an adventure, a little bit of a jungle cruise, I suppose, as Kiki actually throws the axe, hits Cyrus, and they are going to try to chase this one down. There's a bit of hesitation on the TSS side, and that will allow ICU the ability to escape. No summoners burnt.
Yeah, it's definitely an invade that you can do. Olaf is so powerful. You just hit 1 Q. In that position, it was a bit hard just because they were very close to the turret, so they couldn't continue it. But if you're in the river, for example, you walk into that bush and you hit a Q, they pretty much have to flash because you can just continue to get that big slow with the Q. You would have been able to get the autos down on the Brawn passive as well, probably kill 1 member off. So good job to actually be in that defensive position because a lot of teams, even in solo queue, and you see it across pro play, do fall for that invade sometimes. So good job to defend it. They only get some wards in the air jungle, and not too much of a price to pay there. So good job actually to avoid it, and they'll just go into their full clears. Likely both junglers do like that full clear, particularly Shyvana, one jungler that pretty much can't gank until 6 really as well. So she'll probably be pretty safe in that early game.
Yeah, I imagine that's going to be the case for sure. I don't think we'll see anything too crazy. It's more so if we see what happens if Kiki decides to invade, if either of the junglers are going to be proactive in that regard. But it's going to be very difficult, I feel like, for Kiki to do that, just because of the lane pressure from the team composition that ICU has put together. While, yes, they're team fighting, might become a little bit questionable. In lane, they should be able to have priority in a majority of these matchups, particularly in that mid and the bot lane is where I'm going to be looking at them to be the aggressors. We can already see that starting to establish at this stage of the game right now, and that makes life so much more difficult, I feel like, for Kiki, and it makes it so much easier for Ember Celia to just be able to sit back and get that bump through. As we're watching, Anobito actually drop an exhaust on the Cat LC because they're looking for that first blood. I don't think they're going to get it, though, as the shield from Sir Fisher helps keep the Misfortune safe.
Yeah, MF almost died from getting minion block there, but does actually get out in the end. And the other thing about this Olaf is he's not actually the best ganker. That's one of his kind of weaknesses, I guess. He is okay in the long lane. If he does hit that Q and can refire it a few times, he can get a good gank off. Maybe with a Renekton or something, you know, you have that easy point-and-click CC. But into the lane matchups he actually has, there's a Zed, there's an Akali, very hard to gank, lots of immobility. Not sure if you know, any fellow junglers have played, you know, Olaf or any jungler really into those sorts of champions like Akali, like Zed, where they're really hard to gank. You just want to kind of stay in the fountain and don't play the game. So definitely some hard ganks, but bot lane probably the focus just because they don't have much mobility and they can be caught out, and they have the Brawl obviously to set it up as well. But I'm gonna just take this almost smiling it away.
Yeah, that was close. That was very close. And now, I mean, Ember Celia going for that steal will be able to get back safely to the mid lane. But to go back to your previous point, though, about the difficulty for Olaf and the ability to have an impact in some of these lanes against the Zed and the Akali, I mean, it becomes doubly more difficult as well when you have a mid laner who doesn't have that hard CC to help set you up as well. Vladimir, great sustain, great late game team fight prowess, one of the best split pushers. Not one of the best laners to gank for, unfortunately. Has a bit of a weaker early game, doesn't have a lot of that lockdown that a champion like Olaf might need to be able to get to the Zed. And that's going to allow Shadow J, who, as we were talking about before, could be a focal point for the ICU team to really be able to have the fluidity to play whatever style they want, approach the lane however they want, and not really feel threatened that the lane is going to turn on them at any given moment.
Yeah, 100%. And this is where like draft and just picking champions and all that can go so complicated so quickly. There's just so many aspects to take into account, right? And for example, this Olaf pick here being a good pick in some aspects, but also not in other aspects. And just obviously so many champions in the game as well. It's just so hard to take into account all the variables, all the things you have to think about. But yeah, definitely is a strong pick in some contexts here, and we'll just have to see if he can use the actual strength of the pick to his advantage. But is getting a few camp lead on Shyvana, and that's one of the main things that I talked about. Needs to get ahead of this Shyvana, needs to kind of put her in the ground. He's clearing his jungle very well, and one of his best strengths, he is so powerful at getting this early jungle clear, getting camps, getting level lead on the enemy jungler, and then from that he can extend and force objectives and set up those plays eventually.
Yes, we do see another play being initiated by Cypress. This is going to cause Ano Benito to go in. Cat LC, no flash or heal available. Will go down. First blood does secure it. Ano Benito actually goes for a cheeky bit of flash bait. It looked like to call Sir Fisher in. Teleport coming through though. As Kiki as well as Blue Goblin are looking to get this lead. Epiphilia was around, but will get run down. 2 kills currently being returned by the TSS side as Kiki and last ditch effort to find Cypress falls a little bit short. Sir Fisher returning to help make the save on Chisholm, who has been taken around. A re-engage from Red Blood Cells does find the kill on the support, and now it's Chisholm on their own. Has a fair bit of damage, but gets caught by the root and will fall as well. The fight goes in favor of ICU.
Very smart to name himself Red Blood Cells because he clearly has done his research on how to play against a Vladimir through that and able to find the outplay there onto him, getting a double kill. In that Aatrox actually not choosing to TP is going to get a few waves into the turret and the CS lead though and trade for it. So not too bad there. Didn't think he'd impact the play too much. Probably did have his ultimate, so could have elected to TP, but instead crashes this wave. Carly falls down a lot of CS. So taking that trade across the map. But overall, pretty good counter gank there. But in the end, the Akali TP was just the difference maker, getting those 2 kills. And ICU have a nice 4-2 kill lead, but in response, those resets coming in for ICU, the Sharks are going to be able to start up this Drake through this Olaf. So very, very good pick up there as well to get that. And that's what I talked about. Take those dragons away for Shyvana. It's actually in her passive, obviously, getting those extra resistances. So being able to pick up these early Drakes is even more vital than it would be just in a normal game.
And I also think it's worth pointing out too, like for further evidence that this isn't as bad for TSS as one might think. Even in the top lane where you see Red Blood Cells returning back to lane with the 2 kills, with the experience, because of the CS advantage that Goon Goblin was actually able to get to themselves even before that play happened. Red Blood Cells is in lane only with about a 200 gold advantage overall after their backs. It's a little bit more since then, but if we're looking at the point when they actually pop the items, it's the difference of a couple of costs. So it really not that much of an effect right now, and there's no reason why Goon Goblin shouldn't be able to keep playing their lane that same way unless Ember Cecilia makes themselves known, as we're seeing right here, doing a little bit of a save on Red Blood Cells, who will keep them standing. Shototter and Shadow J about to go at it, and this could be very dangerous because the Hemo Plague has already been used. The burst damage not there for Shototter. Meanwhile, back in the river, that was Ember Cecilia fought out by Kiki, who will not be able to secure that kill. Ember able to jump over that wall, so a couple near misses from both teams.
Yeah, but now Olaf looking for a potential play on the Shyvana is very low, but is going to be able to actually walk away here. Do you have that Scuttle Crab vision though on Ember Celtia? I cannot say these names, man. Side, so they might be able to put the hold off under if they were taking it.
Oh, what a grab right there by Cypress. That's going to cause Ano Benito to go in, and Cat LC falls for a second time this game. Sir Fisher should be able to walk this one off, though, gets behind the tower, but a great engage coming from the bot lane of ICU.
Yeah, this is when it gets a bit scary when Samira gets a few kills. Swain actually picking up a few as well, and he is a dangerous champion to get kills on. Carly as well having those 2 kills. This is where it can get scary for the Sharks. You have these big solo lane kind of carries that they have already getting ahead. It's just really easy to apply that damage. They've got a lot of burst, so pick members immediately, but the Olaf looking for another gank.
Oh, Red Blood Cells is going to be okay right here, so that's a very, very fortunate escape for sure. As we do see, again, the game starting to stabilize perhaps a little bit more. I do like to see the deeper ward starting to be pushed in by Cyrus right now and trying to get that deeper vision through. I imagine we'll see more of that in the near future as well if we continue to see this more lane dominant approach. But I do want to give, again, credit to Chisholm as well as Goon Goblin for, holding their lanes down pat against very aggressive opponents. This game is becoming a lot closer than perhaps we could have expected, and I feel like that's going to benefit TSS in the long term.
Yeah, just a bit of better wave management. Obviously, not TPing there now has a 30 CS advantage, which is actually pretty much worth 2 kills. So, not really down at all, and just being able to control the wave just a bit better than the Sakali right now. And also the objective control. They've already got the Rift out. We'll see what they can do with that. They've already got the first drag as well, so not even a trade for the Shyvana, and that's where Olaf's identifying what his combinations are, what he can actually do, what the best point of action is, and obviously tried to actually gank this Akali, couldn't make it work, so go straight. But Akali on the outplay!
Oh! Goon Goblin stayed a little bit too long, and we've kind of been waiting, I feel like, for the justification of some of these picks on the ICU side. Like we saw that early scrap down bot go their way. Now we're seeing it carry over to the mid lane. So there was a good trade before by Shadow J against Dutchotter, and now we see Bloodstone get that solo kill. And now, even in the bot side, Everpelia looking for another play as well. This time it's actually more the from Fisher, who will be found, and then immediately Cat LC gets popped. That is kills in top, kills down bot, and this is ICU taking the map over.
I love the names of Shyvana's ability names, by the way, like Dragon's Descent.
Oh, this could be dangerous as Shadow J is flashing for Dutchotter. Will be able to get there. Kiki is showing up to drive Shadow J back, connect with the first action. One more auto will take the mid laner down. However, in the bot side, after that play we saw before, it's not one, not two, three, possibly even four tower plays. Okay, we'll set over three for now. Rift Herald, though, does get dropped in the mid lane, so it will be responded in time as the pace of this game continues to accelerate.
Yeah, and Shyvana and Swain moving up after that really good play in the bot lane there. Managed to get a lot of plates, a lot of kills. Really creating a massive, disgusting advantage for this Swain and Samira in the bot lane. Really far ahead. But trading well, getting those 4 plates in the mid lane, keeping themselves in the game. Maybe look for this second Drake as well. This is an important objective as well. If they can get those 2 dragons up, no extra resistances for that Shyvana will put themselves right in this one. So obviously down on that gold right now, probably just losing a bit, but need to actually pick up this Drake to stay in the game a bit and keep themselves afloat. But yeah, these ganks from the Shyvana are actually helping out. I mean, when she gets that level 6 power spike, so much damage, so much burst. Bot lane already ahead. Swain able to get, I believe it was a double lead as well. Just making it the top lane.
Yeah, going for another one of those plays right there, but I don't know if this trade's going to go their way. The fancy feet were down, but that last auto, despite the World Ender, is not enough to secure the kill. The rest of the ICU side, though, starting to set themselves up around that dragon, looking to be nice and cozy in that dragon pit. You do have TBT waiting on the outside, but decides not to go in. Instead just throws an axe, and actually we're going to see a later engage right now. TBT stays with it to make it rain, not really slowing the team down as Mordecai comes through the absolute worst to the back line of ICU, but Anohiko is able to turn it around with the late arrival of Shadow J, give the Zed the triple, and give the fight to ICU.
We talked about this Zed being the carry, but hang on, this bot lane is just tearing it up. 307 for Swain, 316 because Samira doing massive jobs in these team fights. And yes, Zed did actually get the triple kill, but it was Samira with her ultimate dealing with the key damage across the team. That AoE ultimate spinning around, life stealing, not dying, getting so much in, and that is a big team fight loss for the Sharks. 4k down now. So one dragon to one big dragon as well for the Shyvana, getting those extra resistances talked about, starting to actually head not only in that gold lead objectives as well, so they can pick up that next Drake even bigger, but really big fight for them, and they're just able to find that. And yeah, again with that Shyvana's Dragon Descent, they first her, but then by the time they had the Samira had her ulti charged up.
Yeah, it fell apart, unfortunately, at the seams right there for TSS, and I'm starting to get a little bit concerned now for this red side, because we were talking about how the snowball had to come into play if we were going to see ICU win this matchup. And okay, gold might only be 4K, dragons might still be even, but I'm still looking at a 12 kills to 4 score line, and that's going to speak volumes in terms of confidence, if nothing else. Like, again, the players don't see the goal differences up top. They only sort of see, you know, KDAs and dragon takes, those neutral objectives. And there is a very strong chance right now that we could be seeing either an overconfident ICU side or perhaps a more trepid TSS side as another pick from Cyrus, who is, you know, making a very strong argument to be MVP of this game right now, I have to admit. Just connecting on every single touch, enabling the ICU side to continue to find opportunities to snowball their advantage.
Yeah, and I think you make a really good point there, Formal, as well, about the kills. Like, a lot of the time when you're in a game, obviously the objectives are one thing, you know, tower plates, that sort of stuff, but a lot of the time kills are really what sets you apart and what kind of makes you either tilt or makes you feel like you're ahead. And I think that even speaks to a high level of play where you might actually be a little bit behind your goal. It's not as far as you think.
That was not the best bullet time right there. That's just going to hold it in place. And Benito wants to go in and pops the ultimate and secures not one. Well, okay, I guess only one. Late Flash does allow an escape from the Inferno trigger. Shadow J actually made a bit of strife, but has to go the death mark down onto Kiki, who instead finds the kill on Ember Celia. It turns into a 1-for-1, I suppose, across the map, pick for pick, but the fighting's not done in the mid lane as another grab by Cyrus, and that's damage from the support Swain alone that scares Stuntarter away. And this has just been an amazing performance still from the ICU bot lane.
Well, we described exactly what they had to do. They had to find these early picks, these early fights, and just kind of run over them and take all these types of skirmishes, getting their champions accelerated. They have so much damage in these fights. That's exactly what they're doing. They're ahead now. 2 turrets taken. They'll probably try to focus topside, maybe try to kill this Aatrox, get this tier 1 topside, sorry, and then that can actually lead into Rift Turret. It can lead it to the Baron. They can set up a lot of aggressive vision and try to stop them from getting these neutrals on the side of the Sharks. So I see you in a very, very strong position now. And just with all the damage they have on their champion, Cyrus just E after E. Very, very dangerous. But in the top lane, potential solo kill.
Yeah, this is red blood cells in a lot of strife, but it's, again, those happy feet are so good, and it may have bought enough time because Ana Benito's waiting in the bush. Surprise, Moon Goblin, you're not getting out of this Inferno trigger. Another kill secured for the Samira, who, oh, well, they may only have 4 to their name right now. If you take a look at that gold differential, running away with that bot lane, nearly 3K up on Cat LC, and that means that is a 300 gold shutdown that you know TSS wants. They're not going to find it. Instead, it's Sir Fisher getting caught by Cyrus yet again, who's runs straight in. Actually goes after Cyrus, he's off the Ragnarok, call up Janus, will secure that kill, and all of a sudden, Ana Benito has to drop the Inferno Shooter just to stay alive, but the life steal won't be enough, and those are 2 vital picks for the TSS side.
Yeah, really, really big turn there. They're able to pick up 2 kills on the solo as well. Really, really forcing the fight. Knew they were getting caught out there, and you're going to be able to potentially get the back of the top instead of working. Low health bars, and he actually finds the kill. He's definitely still on that bush, potentially looking just to catch out a member who walks past.
Well, with the recalls happening in the pit, now Red Blood Cell subs forward, was kind of waiting for Shadow J, and with the Make It Rain, you got to be a little bit careful right here. These assassins not able to find any good targets. Meanwhile, Ember Celia actually back at that Ocean Drake, trying to backdoor that next objective right there. It's going to be close if they get spotted because the pings are coming down, and Kiki is on their way. They're not going to get to the Dragon in time as Dragon's descent to try and escape, but here comes Stuntarter forcing out that flash, and Ember Celia lucky to escape with their life.
Yeah, save the side every time for me. Dragon's descent to get out of the pit there, sneaking the Dragon as well. Flame Breath. And that's Dragon being able to capture that. And that is an important objective. It's definitely more valuable than the second Rift Herald. So picking that one up, sneaking it.
What is Ana Benito doing? Walks straight into a situation where they knew and Olaf was waiting, immediately gets skunked out, and I'm not sure that ICU can stay in this fight anymore. TSS are turning the momentum of this game around quite rapidly. Going to go ahead and drop that Herald right here to get another tower, you would have to imagine. So if we're looking at the tower game, we are tied. If we're looking at the gold game, it's been narrowed a significant bit. Yes, there's a kill advantage currently in favor of ICU, but the fights have not been going their way as of recent times. We are definitely seeing that shift in momentum in full effect.
Other than that Drake take, they've definitely been controlling the objectives in the map in the last 2 minutes, also picking up that tower as well, so getting 2 towers to themselves now, so tightening this game right up. Only 2k now, any fight is really only 2k differential obviously, so fights can definitely be probably 60-40 ICU still, but are very tightened up, so very important what happens at this next Drake, because if it goes over the ICU, they're 3-1 up. Again, another fight in this top lane, so I think they're just kind of trading, but potentially an all-in from Goon Goblin could be there, but yeah, definitely that third Drake.
It's definitely going to be looked at now. Not going to see a commit just yet. As Goon Goblin will walk away. As we approach the 19-minute, 28, 29, 30-second mark right now, we can see that, you know, everyone's just sort of waiting for Baron to appear. Both teams have moved to the top side of the map. They're each starting to get, you know, some of those camps, some of that vision down. Do we actually see that full brawl over the Baron pit?
Yeah, I mean, you could potentially, obviously, teams just going to look for vision, and both teams do it relatively fast, in my opinion. Like, obviously, have a lot of AD champions in the Olaf, the Aatrox, and the EMFs are going to be able to burst it down pretty quickly. On the other side, they have a Samira who's very, very strong. So, going to be able to take it quite quickly, and then I think the focus will also be on that fourth Drake Doe, because obviously, draw it 2-2 if you're on the side of the Sharks and get it, and then 3-1 up ICU if they do manage to capture that one. So, very, very important objective for both teams to look at, and going into it, going to be a lot of vision control on that one as well. So it is important as well, like what teams are actually going to do in this next 2-3 minutes. Do we set up our vision originally on the Baron and look to try to control that, or do we set up our vision on the Dragon? It's a hard decision to make, and depend on what teams both think they're going to do. And if a team does win a big team fight though at either objective, probably going to get both. So it is really, really important what happens in this next 2-3 minutes, and definitely game defining, because that Baron is on the cards now as well.
And I like how we're seeing the ICU play around it in a different way. I mean, when you look at TSS, they're just kind of throwing everyone into the river itself. But it was a simple lane swap from ICU. Put their better characters on that top side of the map so they can always just walk down when needed. Typically, you would usually see the lane swap throw the bot lane into the mid lane at this stage of the game. But also because that last tier 1 is standing, I feel like ICU is thinking they can protect that last tier 1, and it could be a bit of a safer farm for that bot lane. And well, as a result, it's Shadow's still in the mid lane, feeling the brunt of this gank. But because it's Shadow's natural kit and having Flash still available, they're able to escape those situations. And that is why we saw a little bit of a differential in strategy for a lane swap right there. Really smart by ICU, and it tells me they are adaptive. However, that pressure did cause the bot lane to go away from the top, and now Goon Goblin is really threatening to take that tower down.
Yeah, it's going to probably take it in the next minute or so, unless the Swain can actually defend it. But yeah, Zed does have to blow the flash, though in that mid lane. So that is important for the upcoming fights. Obviously, probably going to have one over this Drake, or potentially over the Baron as well in the next few minutes. So is a big cooldown to take into account, and obviously very important to add to that Zed's mobility when he already has a lot of it. So definitely important. And looking across the board, I'd almost give the Sharks the lead, just because they do have some of those base levels. Obviously, the gold lead is still in the favor of ICU. They are going to have a bit more of those item spikes, but the Olaf ahead of the Shyvana in base levels, the Vladimir ahead of the Zed in base levels, and then bot lane, pretty even. They are one down in each department, but the key members really having those base levels is very, very important. So could be interesting to see who wins this fight. It's just really, really tight across the board in terms of gold and those XP levels as well. But yeah, I don't know. They're chilling out. You know, we're waiting for the objectives.
Yeah, it could have been happening in the top side right there. Not quite going to be the case. As we do see the Dragon get started up, and if there's one player though still on the ICU side that is ahead, it is going to be Anobito, who will be the player to watch, as they're not even going to contest this one. They'll give away the Dragon this time around. Couldn't find the opening for the fight that they may have necessarily been looking for. And it's a bit unfortunate for ICU because they did commit all 5 players down around the pit, which means experience that they could have gained elsewhere. Well, it's going to fall to the wayside. Essentially a free Dragon secured for TSS. But to real quickly go back to the point for ICU and why they still might be ahead, and where I'm going to push back a little bit, is the gold differential between Anobito and Cat LC, who it still should be that late game damage threat, I feel like, for the TSS side. We're talking roughly 2.3k down. That's nearly an entire item down from the damage that Anobito is going to be able to output in some of these team fights. And that's going to hurt when we get later and later into these games, because, well, yes, you can say TSS has the more traditional front-to-back team fighting composition. They don't really have that backline damage, and they're not for a good long while.
Yeah, that is definitely going to be important. Just that pretty big chunk of gold down right now, but in this bot lane, Vladimir getting caught out.
Not just the bot lane, but top lane as well, because Red Blood Cells is also getting caught out. So fights happening on each end of the map. Chunkshotter, though, needs to be a little bit careful. He's going to go ahead and heal off a minion, though, and be perfectly fine. Like, that is Vladimir, and as we get later and later into the game, that is the strength of this champion. As we see that top tower finally fall, it feels like TSS has been kind of knocking at its door for a good long while. They're going to be happy with that pickup.
I haven't really mentioned that, so but heaps of healing on the side of the Sharks, and Shyvana just rushed to Morel and Uppercut. So that's pretty exciting to see. Going to be picking that one up, obviously some kills from Kali as well, or he picked the Oblivion Orb, but Kali potentially getting caught out. He's going to E away to safety, but going to be those anti-heal items coming in. Samira probably picking up and executioners soon. Swain might go for that Maryland eventually. So all items that they need against Aatrox, Vladimir, and Olaf have a lot of healing between them. But yeah, definitely doing well. And I mean, one thing we didn't talk about as well, if that Drake, the fourth Drake coming up, they're just able to grab it, but is set up. And I mean, I've talked about this with my team a lot as well, heaps. It's been a real focal point for us. It's just set up on objectives, and sometimes you don't really need to kill, you don't need to play the team fight well. It's just about how you actually set up and how you actually control the objective. And there, they get the vision control, they're able to get defensive wards, they're able to make death pushes and just push them out, take the drag with absolutely no contest. And that's not off, being the better team or, being stronger or winning a fight or anything. That's purely just off vision control, macro, and setting up better and being a bit more coordinated. And that's a really, really important point for them to do that well. It really shows a lot of coordination as a team. So that was a really good job by them. We'll have to see if they can do it the next team fight. And it also comes a bit back to the comp. They have a bit more of that 5v5 strength, and the other team is a bit more focused on those solo lane kill threats and pick potential and that sort of stuff. So it is hard to actually walk in to the enemy team composition when they are set up on that Drake. So a good job for them securing that objective. And yeah, that's just, I guess, how they did it in that case.
I do, though, kind of really wonder and I guess admire the fact that how TSS were able to get the vision control in those situations. When you look at the individual vision scores, I mean, Cyrus 0208 has been running away with that at this stage. In fact, I'm a little bit surprised how far behind Sir Fisher is on the vision score until I remember, well, they are playing a Braum who doesn't usually get that same sort of roaming prowess that other supports might have. But I have to give credit back over to the ICU side. I do think that they also are playing a very strong vision game. When you look at the map, the river has been constantly lit up and warded, and they have known at pretty much whenever the Sharks have decided to press into their own side of the rift, like, they have been found out in those situations. So it hasn't been too one-sided in that aspect. I think a lot of the times it's just become playing around that vision and not knowing not necessarily where the engage might come from, where the team fight might be set up as. This next dragon's going to be an interesting one. It's for Dragon 3 of 4, so it's not the most important. So Fisher walks to a dash push, and after Vision becomes handy, bullet time used to try and shut down Shadow. He looks to escape the Hemo Blade and shuts off. He's looking to get to that back line. TTS left tries to dive. Went Ragnarok, but too much damage thrown at him as the damage team is trying to do what they can, but they get him at the front line. Goon Goblin and Sundarter have too much healing. The back line, though, Red Bloodshot was able to find Cat LC, and that does mean there's not a lot of more damage coming from the Shark side. Goon Goblin, though, sitting in the river, is doing just enough work to scare the rest of ICU back. It was a chaotic fight, 3 for 3 when it's all said and done, or it is said and done. Goon Goblin, is actually able to find Cyrus because of that ward, avoiding the blasting zone. Cyrus not going to be able to run away, has to flash over the wall, and now should be able to walk to safety. Goon Goblin still looking, but eventually backs off.
It's going to be a really interesting situation coming onto this Drake as well. They do have the Akali TP available, but she's just on the map, so everyone else has to run straight to the Drake. Aatrox not even starting it right now, so we could have yet another fight, actually, potentially for this Drake, but Aatrox is now going to start it up. Just hit it a few times, pull it back towards his team as well. But yeah, very, very messy fight. But in the end, both teams coming out with 2 players. Now we have the TP from Akali, and now we have a potential flank option for her. MS still on the base as well.
World Ender is available, but it's too little, too late. As the Dragon is secure, Bill flashes to the wall. Every it's gonna go down. Not only do they lose the Dragon, they lose their jungler as well. A little bit of a disaster for ICU, who is still looking for fights, actually. Red Blood Cell and Chuchot are going at it right now. The trade goes in favor of the blue side, but I still feel like TSS, they're still looking for this fight. They don't have Cat LC around, but I don't think they care. They already know the survivability of Goon Goblin and Chuchot are enough to really get some sustained DPS down in these exchanges, and that's why Sir Fisher is trying to jam up that front line. Needs to be cautious, though. There's still a lot of hurt being thrown back their way, and it does look as if finally TSS are going to back off.
Shyvana definitely took that one out of Hedgie's solo fuel playbook. All right, hop over the wall into 4 players. Yep, check. Missed the Dragon Smite. Check. Missed the flash over the wall. Check. All right, fantastic. We're hedging now. Great job. So it's gonna go down there. Bit of a valid effort there. Obviously, once you take that 3rd Dragon, because you're very important on Shyvana as well. Just very unlucky you missed that flash over the wall. But in the end, the gold lead still very, very tight. Now that Drake lead and just a bit of a gold lead for the Sharks definitely gives them that advantage, but this game's still very much up for grabs. Both comps starting to see themselves through though, and this Vladimir is ever scaling and ever scary for me, and that's kind of where they need to shut it down. I think they do have that better front to back composition on the side of the Sharks, so as the game goes on, I think they're more favoured, so we really need to see some big plays in the next few minutes for ICU to take out this one.
Well, the big play right now is going the other way for TSS as they have already started up this Baron. Uncontested, unspotted, it's going to be secured, and this is going to be massive in the red side.
Yeah, definitely. They're just going to be able to take that one, and that's, again, vision control. Don't have to do it without a contest. Just getting those looks, pushing out the enemy players, just suffocating them into their work through, just taking away each board, taking away vision, taking away their opportunity to face check. Because otherwise, if they do, they'll be met with multiple members and eventually be able to start that one up and take it, and it's just that pressure. You know, maybe you force a recall or something, and that's enough just to start and burst down the Baron, particularly with their comp having some really good AD targets. So that's a really big Baron as well, because it does lead to that Ocean Drake, potentially take the Soul. They're in a really, really strong position now because of that.
Yeah, they are absolutely in control of this match, I would have to say, and a really well done job by TSS, because it looked like earlier in this matchup things were slipping away from them. They were finding themselves behind quite significantly on that kill count, 12-4 at one stage, now brought back within 5 as opposed to 8. It's still not the best looking number, but they seem to be controlling where this map is going. And if we compared the two champions and the two players we were looking to be sort of the centerpiece of each team, Shadow J versus Kiki has had that big time impact. Kiki has been using this Olaf so well based on the team composition around them, which, I mean, this was taken knowing it was going to be a tough matchup, but they've risen to it. Meanwhile, on the other side, Shadow J had a lane matchup that could have been beneficial for them in that early and mid game. Didn't really get the advantages that they were looking for. Granted, the bot lane with Enobito and Cyrus absolutely have it. Now we're going to see them get involved in another fight right here. They're pinned under the tower being seized. Teleport's coming through as the Dragon's Descent is used defensively by Emercelia to try to reposition. Does get knocked up by the Brahmin. Full time comes raining on through, but that's only going to slow any sort of counter engage. Emercelia gets some damage out on the back lines for Fisher. Has to be careful, and Kiki goes running in, and it's all taken. Landed on going golden to follow. Now coming through with Shutdowner. They wanted the Hemo Blade, and it does work to an extent. They don't.
Oh, Kali!
The back line open, and Red Sledgedown was able to get to the back and find a lot of members of that red side. It's a big fight going in favor of ICU.
This game is fantastic. We're back and forth, a really tight contest. Probably just going a bit too far forward there on that Olaf. Having to stopwatch, you did have that up and it kind of made sense, but probably just going a bit too far forward. Got first down too quickly, and then the Akali coming in from behind. That would have made so many picks on that backline, able to take out the Vladimir, big member on the Sharks, and again, they're going to be able to pick up a tower for it, potentially the Dragon as well. They will have control over that. They even have to kill the Emperor very well as well, but
has reconnected.
oh dear.
Yeah, well, that's a good way to
It was really cool until then.
Yeah, like that's a good way to give an enemy misfortune some gold, I suppose. Cat LC says, thank you very much for my first kill of the game. Also, yeah, that disconnect message did come up. Don't worry, the game's still moving on. You can see that Chutdowner is moving around, so we're still playing under a competitive situation, although when this gets picked up right here, I think he like the Sharks, the TCC Sharks, will be A-okay. They get themselves an Ocean Soul. Another neutral objective for them. Yes, they lost the last fight. They got over eager. I liked how Red Blood Cells played that flank. We'll see where we go. I mean, you can take all the neutral objectives, get all the Barons and Dragon Souls you want. If you get over eager in a team fight and wind up losing it, you can still lose this game.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry in advance for this, but yeah, the Shoana definitely looking a bit like MCOM's jungle there in that play, but yeah, they're still in a pretty strong position even after that fight. Going to be able to pick up that soul as well. Having 3 Ocean Drakes as well, a lot of regen just on top of the soul as well. So in a very strong position here. Very even though in the gold department still. So ICU can find ways to win, but it's going to come down to outplays like before. Like the Akali finding the big flank on a key target. Can she do that again? Can she take down multiple members? She has that damage to do it. So they have the Z as well, so they can try to kill multiple members, take down those key targets, and then move on to the big tankier, buffier champions like the Aatrox and the Bronx. So have to see what they can do. Have to see how each team plays it, but it is still up for grabs. As Ocean Soul's actually become one of the weaker souls, surprisingly, after the nerfs. I think Mountain is definitely the strongest now, and you can voice your opinion on that as well, Formal. But
I've been saying Mountain is the strongest pretty much this entire season.
all right.
Like, yeah, no, you're not getting a debate out of me on that one. I have been 100% Team Mountain Soul from the start. Now, Cloud Soul looks the coolest. See, this is where I surprise people. I actually say Cloud Soul, depending on your team composition, is often the second best one.
Yeah.
That's where I get some pushback sometimes. But no, Mountain Soul's always been like a win condition in and of itself. And speaking of win condition, Mercelia almost gave one away right there. Being found out, is able to use the Dragon's Descent to escape once again as Shadow tries to get some damage back onto Kiki. Only scares them deeper into their own jungle. I mean, it's a bit of a waiting game right now for TSS. They got a Baron in just under a minute. They've got control of the lanes. They don't need to do anything foolish.
Not actually having too much damage, just the Void Staff and the Morelli damage the Gauntlet there. So it's a lot buffier though, and because she has been getting caught out a few times, that extra tankiness is doing a really good job to just not actually just get fully caught out and die. So doing an alright job in that department. But yeah, probably going to get some more damage items hopefully towards the end, and we'll start hitting some big E's, because the Flame Breaths have been landing. We're not worrying about that. I mean, he hit a 5-man one I think in that previous fight as well, which is really, really big. But it's just actually the way the build is positioned. It's not going to be doing as much damage. So probably continue into a bit more of that magic damage item department, just because it will provide a lot more AP for the team. But now this Baron being started up again, and they're just going to kind of walk to it at the start of the time, but they still might be able to take it. Misposition methods all over the place. I think.
Yeah, and this is only a case of Celia standing around. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, Red Blood Cells recognizing a Baron fight's happening, deciding, you know what, I'm going to go for the solo play right here, and it's actually winning out. Celia trying to find a way into the pit, but gets stunned and gets burnt down. Cat LC fights their second of the game, as the Baron is secured by the Cyber Sharks, and now they're looking for a follow fight as well. Cyrus tries to mark himself right in the middle on that backline. Shadow again. And Benito does not get much with the Infernal Trigger, and now Siren and Shadow are on the run. They won't run far. 4 kills picked up for the TSS Cyber Sharks, and they could look to break into the blue side base.
That may be the straw that breaks the camel's back. A big team fight. 4 members going down. The Sharks really clean ace in there, except for them going down. Really well played fight. Start the Baron, able to find a pick on Shabana immediately, and then the fight is just really hard. They're able to focus all their attention on that Samira, who otherwise might get a big ult off, because this is not the extra members there to protect her. She's going to get first down quickly, and they're able to take the fight from there. But a very good job. They have the Soul, they have the Baron, they could just look to end here.
Yeah, they are looking to end potentially. Celia is up, and Anobito and Cyrus are up in another less than 10-second spout. So we'll see how much damage can be inflicted. Red Blood Cells trying to engage. Ragnarok's blocked by Kiki. They're looking to end the game right now, and I'm not sure they have the damage to do this. But here comes Cyrus, here comes Anobito. They're going straight to the back line. Kiki working on the next, gets down to half before falling, but has the GA! As 2 Goblin and Chuck Runner continue to zone everyone else. Kiki will get the final blow, and that's going to be game going to the Cyber Sharks.
Wow, that was actually getting a bit scary for a second there, but they are able to take the Nexus down. A good win for the Sharks, and some worrying signs early though. They were down a lot of gold, and I thought ICU were just going to take it out really. They were having a really strong performance, but are going to go down in the ends. But yeah, just a good game from both teams. This is a really exciting matchup. Maybe this is even a preview of our finals matchup. You never know. But 2 really strong teams that's going out there and performing well, and this could be definitely a cool series or a big grand final matchup that we look forward to, because these teams were really on their game today and performing well.
Yeah, I feel like this isn't going to be the last we see of either of these 2 squads. I mean, the Cyber Sharks with that win, I do believe have secured themselves a top 2 position in the group, which means they have made the playoffs. I do believe that for ICU at BBC, they need to win 1 more before they get themselves in that position. But if they play like they did today, I mean, it's not going to be far away for them. But we need to have that all-important discussion right now, Hedgie. Who is the MVP for this? I have my thought. I'm going to let you say yours first, and then depending on what you say, I'm going to tell you why you're either right or wrong.
Okay, yeah, well, of course, the Mountain Soul thing was the first thing we've ever agreed on in all times history. So I'm going to go with Aatrox. I think he threw down some really good solo lane pressure. Obviously doesn't have the best KDA on the team, but thought he was really, really impactful on those fights as well. Just able to provide so much damage, able to carve up the enemy, and kind of made it really hard for the Samira because she kind of had to run into him, couldn't take him down or burst him just because of the tankiness he had. And yeah, and in the end, he was just really, really impactful on those fights. There were some other good performances on the team, but I think Goon Goblin really set it up for success for them.
See, I was going to go, I'm going to tell you why you're wrong right now. I was going to go with key on this. I was going to go with the Olaf jungle because the Olaf jungle was put in a position where they had to play around a team that didn't necessarily support them in like strong ways, but was still able to find an impressive impact. And then if we look at how the team fights for the Cyber Sharks actually played out, it wasn't Goon Goblin who was the initiator. Goon Goblin often was on cleanup duty when we saw the damage, unfortunately, not being able to be followed up all the time by Cat LC. Goon Goblin, yes, was on cleanup duty, but when it came to the engage and when it came to the playmaking, who the team was playing around in those fights, it was that Olaf. And funnily enough, the best example of this happening was the team fight that didn't quite work their way, but you can see the strategy they were trying to do. Throw the Olaf in deep, have them pop the stopwatch, and then you throw the Hemo Plague on top of that when everyone groups around to try to get the Olaf, and have the trust that Key is that strong of a player that they'll be able to bounce back. So I would go that way with this. I'm going to let you have the final say. I don't know if I've convinced you to change your mind, but I'm just sort of curious. Final say, which argument do you like better, yours or mine?
Yeah, I'll give you that. I think I tend to agree. I think Olaf had a pretty good game as well, and potentially even better. And did have the objective control was pretty important as well. So ended up getting the soul, and that was a really important aspect of this game. And if we weren't able to get those dragons, could have changed the game a lot. So yeah, you know what, Formal, good job. I'll give you that one. You've convinced me.
Awesome. I mean, look, to be quite frank, if I were to choose, if there was within me to pick MVPs on teams that don't win, like I have a hard rule, an MVP should go to the team that wins. If I were to give like the Ace Award according to OP.GG or the best of the rest, I was gonna say Cyrus. Okay, hold on. We're gonna have a little quick thing right here. How can the MVP and the Ace both be in the top lane?
Because that was where the game was centered around. They both had a fantastic game for me.
No, okay. My next point. I'm having fun with this, by the way. How can you say the game was centered around the top lane when those were the last two tier 1 towers to fall?
Because his name is Red Blood Cells, and there's a Vladimir on the enemy team. He's the MVP just because of the name.
Okay, yeah, right. That's a good argument. I would have gone with Cyrus for like pretty much putting the team on his back for the entire early and mid game lead on that Swain pick. It was disgusting, but that's why it's fun to have chats with you. I enjoyed it. Look. We are going to be signing off for today, but before we do, a big thank you to Lenovo Legions for, providing a lot of support to this event. A lot of the prize pool, I do believe, is coming from them as well. We've had chats with them. They love high school esports. We love high school esports. It is a match made pretty much wherever you want to go, so a great one right there. Furthermore, I thank you to Torrance University for hosting our finals when we do get there, and Summoner Society for being our community sponsor and providing artwork for the top 4 teams in this series. So a big thank you to all of those orgs, and well, a big thank you to you, Hedgie. I have to admit, next week, it's last week of regular season play. Are you ready for it?
Hell yeah, let's go.
Awesome, let's get ready, let's get keen. That's going to do us for today, though. So until next week, catch you all out there on the Rift.
Legion by Lenovo.